Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here from DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and we are finally here at the last in the Parappa series, ending it with Parappa the Rapper 2 for the PS2.
Released in 2001, this was developed once again by Nanaosha and published by Sony. It is the last game in the Parappa series. It made some changes to the basic gameplay, but it's more Parappa goodness. And now Brian can stop bitching because we're finally done this series.
Jim, you gotta believe.
I do believe, Brian. I do believe.
So since we are now in the PS2 era, you do expect better graphics, and this game does deliver. Every character is much smoother, there's no more rough edges, and there's a whole lot more detail going on with the sprites and the backgrounds in general. Also, check out these cutscenes, which, let me warn you, there are a shit ton more cutscenes in this game. And I actually didn't mind it as much as the other games, just because it wasn't as much of a confuzzling mess as the other games. We recognize this looks a lot better. I mean, this is a PS2 game and it was a release title, but so was Omnimusha. Now granted, completely different styles, so we didn't try to be too unfair when scoring this, but the PS2 is capable of much more. When I take all this into consideration, I actually bumped my overall score up to a 7, and Jim bumped his down to a 7. It looks pretty damn good, and I'll only add one beer, just because by the end of this game, just like Parappa, I was tired of seeing noodles everywhere.
Alright, the music. Much like Jammer Lammy, this is another game that kind of improves on the overall quality. You get a lot of different styles of music, so you have almost starting with disco, you have funk, you kind of have soul. So you get a lot of different styles within the rap genre. Again, I don't think these songs are really that memorable. I don't find myself humming them after, but the quality's there, and I can't take any fault away for that.
But Jim, at the end, it's like an R&B song with Sonny.
Yeah.
It's like Ja Rule and Ashanti.
No, oh god. That's the first time anyone's mentioned Ashanti in at least 10 years.
Where would I be without my baby?
I tried to slap you, but I don't want to sound like a bitch again. Anyway, long story short, we both gave it 8s. The quality's there, even if it isn't quite as memorable. Oh, one more thing. The voice acting, I'll say, is a little bit better this time than it's been in the whole series. And as far as beers go, you don't need any.
Just like the graphics and the sound, the control did improve, only to the point where when you have an input, there's no lag this time. So if you're fucking up, it's strictly on you. Now, Jim will get into this a little deeper, but they did mix things up a little bit, because you do not have to strictly just mash the buttons away to get a better rating. I appreciate they finally recognize that you're a rhythm-based game, maybe you should focus more on the actual rhythm than the mashing of buttons. All that being said, we acknowledge the improvement, and I actually gave it a 6 this time, and Jim bumped his up to a 7. I'm only going to add one beer, just because Parappa the series had me so conditioned to just mash away at the buttons that it actually forced me to get a bad on some songs. Because I was conditioned. Fuck you, Jim.
The gameplay. So, at its core, the game stays the way it's always been. A rhythm-based game where you kind of rap your way to gain the ability to get through the next part of the game. During the cutscenes now, there's actually a little practice mode that they give you. After, hell, if you are familiar with the series, just hit the start button right away and skip this shit. It goes on way too long, but it does give you a good little idea of what the songs have in store for you. The actual songs themselves, as the game goes on, they get a little bit more difficult, more involved, the patterns change, and it keeps a good balance between having to follow what the instructor does, but freestyling. Even though the game is a lot more punishing when it comes to, like Brian said, you can't mash buttons, you actually really have to try to keep a balance between freestyling rhythms, but also following along to what they're doing. You have the meters at the bottom, which, what the fuck?
Shut the fuck up! I need to talk about the meters!
Fine. I'll just say that the meters judge how you're doing in the song. I can go into it later, Mr. Bitch, goddamn bitch. Alright, I'm just gonna stop, because it's Parappa. What do you expect? So, Bri bumped his scores up to a 7, I kept mine at an 8. It's the same Parappa goodness you either love or hate when it comes down to it. As far as beers go, I'll add one beer for the meters, which Bri will get into.
The originality. Well, the reason I want to talk about the meters is that is primarily the only thing new we saw in this entire series. Once again, you're back to Parappa. The story is still a goofy goddamn story. I'll give it credit. It's a little more toned down and seems to be focused, even if it is on a silly subject like someone trying to turn all the food in the world into noodles.
Skitties!
God damn it!
Ow.
But anyway, let's take a look at these meters. The one all the way to the far right is your funk meter, which basically just measures your rhythm. As I mentioned before, it's much more important, so you cannot just repeatedly mash or you're going to get a lower rating. The middle meter is actually your freestyle meter, so it kind of measures you on choosing your own words and veering from the path that's laid out for you. And the final meter is obedience. Now with that, if you just follow the instructed perfectly, that's going to be higher. But you can get away with doing a nice combination. You're probably not going to get perfect on every meter, but you don't need to in order to get the cool rating this time. But overall, as you see, we still had to keep this at a 4. We recognize there's some differences, but overall, it's been tried and true for the other two titles. And as far as beer, I'm only going to add 1 beer because now that we are in the PS2 era, I really would have expected something new.
So there's actually a lot of replayability here. The difficulty in the game is represented by the beanie that Parappa wears. So when you beat the game on a certain difficulty, you unlock the next one, going all the way up to very hard. Then if you beat all the game on very hard, then you unlock a lot of stuff. So the game kind of forces you into replayability just because you have to play through again and again. Also, the multiplayer modes come back, which is always a good thing. And like any Parappa game, it has the high score, so you can always go back and try and set new high scores. Long story short, we both gave it 9s. There's actually a lot to do here. While not that much technically on paper, if you want to do everything, you can always go back for more. And as far as beer goes, yeah, you don't really need any beer. There's a lot to do here.
So overall, Jim and I both recognize that from a presentation and technical standpoint, this game is better than the other two titles. While at the end of the day, your choice from the series is going to come down to which songs you like the most, or more likely, whichever title you're most nostalgic about. You should recognize this is the best game. Now, I will say one thing that I actually really enjoyed in this game is that during the video game level, if your health goes down, you revert back to more retro graphics, and I can appreciate little touches like that. This game seemed to be a nice wrap-up for the series. Thank God there's no more, so I don't have to do any more of these.
Bitch!
But I will say, even with our scores, I bumped it up to a 6, Jim kept it at an 8. He did mention that his favorite is still the original Parappa. I'm convinced that's only because there's a poop joke in it.
No. I like the original the best because it has the best songs. I like the poop joke because I can relate to it.
Yeah, like I said, he only likes it because of the poop joke.
No, because of the goddamn music!
So when we combined all of our scores together, as you see, it does come out to a 7. This is an above average game, and even for a cynic like me, who hated this series, I recognize you can have some fun with it, and even if you hate the crazy style, some of the tunes are going to be catchy. So, we just want to thank you for sticking with us through all these games, and thank you bastards who voted for this series.
Punch, kick, it's all in the mind. Ah! God, it's still the catchiest.
Till next time, guys. When it comes to beer pairing, I'm actually going to go with the 21st Amendment Brewery's Hell or High Watermelon. Chances are, if you've seen this can, the artwork definitely appealed to you. And let's face it, during the summer, what's better than a nice watermelon wheat beer? It's perfect for when it's hot outside, and it is a beer that might have its flaws, but no one can deny it's decent to drink. So similar to this game, you pair two things that you can't deny are pretty damn good, and we'll pretty much guarantee you'll have a good time. So grab a 6-pack and play through this wacky-ass game. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.